IONIQ Information.
Hello, in this video I'm going to give a just a short bit of opinion really on some news in the UK for electric vehicle owners, and this is the acquisition yesterday by British Petroleum of the UK's largest electrical vehicle charging network, Chargemaster, which runs Polar, which is a large network of charge units. So I'm going to talk about that now, but if there's background noise, I apologise for just no reason other than being sat in a different location in my car talking. I'm here and I'm right next to this, so there's quite a bit of noise here. Also, I hope you excuse me, I'm going to stick my sunglasses down. I have allergies, I can read my notes a bit easier and I won't be trying to itch my eyes. So yesterday British Petroleum, BP, spent 130 million, actually not a small sum of money this time, to buy Chargemaster, which is was founded back in 2008, and they own and run Polar, the UK's largest electric vehicle charging network, which has 6,500 charging units, I guess public ones they mean there, and 40,000 I guess paying customers. Chargemaster's overall supplied over 50,000 charging points across Europe, and that's if you count public, workplace and home units together. So Robert Llewellyn over on his great channel Fully Charged has already commented on this breaking news, and he pointed out that apparently all the public Polar network charging points, they all run off renewable energy. I can't kind of confirm that, but apparently that's true. So then, is BP buying Chargemaster a good thing? And various forums and social media groups I've seen in the UK, they seem very polarized, no pun intended, about this, and some say that it's good that a big oil company is kind of seeing the light and investing in the future of low emissions mobility, transport, you know, cars, these kind of things. And BP apparently sees the UK by 2040 as having about 12 million electrified, I guess, vehicles, because the wording is a bit ambiguous in the press release. So they're on the road by 2040, up from around about 150,000 in the middle of 2018, where we are right now. And I guess they're thinking about eventually fewer people visiting and spending money at their sort of petrol stations. Really, there's this kind of business interest here, is the way it seems to be framed in the press release. So that eventually just fewer people visiting and spending money, you know, at their existing sites. So they're thinking about diversifying what's at those sites to bring in different kinds of people, I guess. So some people seem to be expressing opinions that they hope that BP will install more fast and especially ultra fast chargers. And BP's press release does mention these 150 kilowatt hour units that also IONIQ and other networks now, even Ecotricity, are thinking about putting in these kind of higher power chargers. And installations, according to the BP press release, will start to be seen over the next 12 months. So pretty much the same timeline as Ecotricity, which I think we're talking about spring next year, and the IONIQ network that I've briefly mentioned before, which I think is also sort of coming soon kind of thing, in that sort of timeline. And BP has about 1,200 petrol stations across the UK, although it turns out they don't directly own a lot of those. Some of them are branded, about 700, 800 are branded, so I don't know if they'll be kind of compelled to put in these chargers or how that will work. You know, the fine print on the press release is worth looking at. And also they may be installing so-called fast, I don't know why they're called fast, 7 kilowatt units, in addition to presumably keeping the existing Polar network, you know, maintained and operated. It's important to note, if you are a Polar customer, I'm not yet, but I was literally on the cusp of doing that, and I might actually do it next week. They say that customers do not need to take any action, and this announcement will not have any impact on Polar subscriptions, so that's good to see for now. And to put it in context, the BP press release also states that they have 1.4 gigawatt capacity, power generating capacity of wind globally, that's mainly in the US, and 2 gigawatts of solar capacity, power generation capacity in Europe. So, you know, they're framing this as, you know, there's not the first foray into kind of renewables and low emission type things. And the press release footnotes again say that BP also this February 2018 announced that they're collaborating on what they call advanced mobility with the Renault-Nissan Mitsubishi Alliance, which is behind the Nissan Leaf, the NV200, the Renault Zoe, these kind of cars and future cars that they're developing. So that's kind of one side of the argument, is that BP is doing it and it might be a good thing, and it might mean that they're stepping into this arena and doing it seriously and properly, and perhaps, you know, who knows, even better technically than, or even in sort of payment model terms than the kind of incumbents, which have been starting it with very small amount of resources, small user base and so on, and maybe not able to kind of plan on a longer term kind of resource vision or whatever. So that's the kind of, you know, the possible upside. The downside I've seen on forums is that basically cynically people think that BP has perhaps got ulterior motives, and that they may have bought Polar, Chargemaster and Polar, to raise prices across the network, to discourage electric car usage and kind of, maintain the petrol and diesel status quo for as long as they possibly can. So it's just, it's a kind of containing move rather than a kind of investment move with the right kind of motives. This is what some people are saying. I'm now parked somewhere else entirely because I realised that I forgot to say that it was a surprise to get an email from one of the charging network companies, or one of the sort of electric car related companies I get emails and mailing lists from, saying this kind of information that BP had bought Chargemaster. The typical kind of emails that I do get from people like Ecotricity and others is either that oh look, we've now powering more from renewable sources to charge electric cars or to provide our infrastructure, or there was one recent one about we're kind of buying unused farming fields to replant wildflowers to increase insect diversity. So the typical kind of email I'm getting around electric car ownership and usage is these kind of very optimistic, hopeful kind of stories. So it was one of the first bizarre kind of emails that I'd got with this kind of sudden link to BP. So I should say I was surprised. It's a question of is it good or bad? It's probably a bit too kind of simplistic, but even if it is bad, what can you do to kind of avoid it in the UK? Can you avoid the sort of big oil companies and so on as a UK electric car driver in the UK? So I was kind of thinking about it from this point of view, and first, when you have a battery electric car, you have to charge it somehow. It's not sort of there's no way around that. You can, for instance, if you wanted to completely cut big oil and the private sector out of your life, you could just use a domestic 3-pin socket, buy, like I do, or make your own renewable energy at home from, say, PV solar if you happen to have an installation, drive locally so you never need to charge on the public network, and just completely cut these people out of your life. So I can see, for some people that might fit their lifestyle, it might work, and they might be able to do that. It also would mean for me with my IONIQ Electric that if I wanted a full charge from empty, it would take me like at least 12 hours to get that from a 240 volt 3-pin plug. Some people might be able to do that. I often can't. So I need to charge more quickly often and go other places, sometimes places unexpected. So I actually do have a 32 amp type 2 socket electric vehicle supply equipment unit at home. This will give me about a full charge in about 4 hours, as compared to sort of 12 plus from a 3-pin plug. And of course I looked at it, and who makes this unit? Polar Chargemaster, as you can see here. And when I charge at work, as I noticed when I was doing that last, I've used a local network. It's sort of branded as a local network that ended up being administered by a company called Charge Your Car, which were part of a company called Electromotive. And guess who bought Electromotive in January 2017? It was, yes, Chargemaster. And for longer trips, I have used I use rapid chargers so that I can get the car going again in, say, 30-45 minutes, depending on the speed you get out of the rapid charger unit. And I've been using these Ecotricity rapid chargers mainly, which have problems with the app and problems with the DBT units, as I've covered in a previous video. So when I was talking about some of those problems, people suggested, well, sign up and try and use some of the alternative networks like the Polar rapid chargers, and of course that's Chargemaster now as well. So BP, or Big Oil if you want to think of it that way, now owns Chargemaster and owns, is associated with all these things that I regularly use to charge my electric car. So there's no, even if I wanted to at the moment, for me, there's no way out of that now. So, and second, I have to think, well, where does my electric car, my electric vehicle even come from in the first place before thinking about charging it? This car is a Hyundai IONIQ Electric, it's not a Tesla, and like many people in the UK, I can't afford a Tesla. I think they're great cars, but I just can't afford one. And who makes all other types of EVs that some people can, and me, can sort of afford? They're still not very cheap, they're not that affordable. Well, here it's the legacy automakers, so we're back in the revenue streams of them, developing, selling, fueling and servicing petrol and diesel vehicles. And as I was arriving in work recently, in my Hyundai IONIQ Electric, this one here, a bus went past me, and on it was a Hyundai advert for its petrol flagship car, the i30N, with the slogan "Turning Petrol Heads," as if this is the kind of latest big thing for them. So these kind of big oil or legacy automakers, they are my electric vehicle, car and charging reality. So in a sense, for me, I can see sort of both sides of the argument, but BP buying Chargemaster, it doesn't change that much. But having said that, I do kind of, I do expect them to actually come through on their promises and do something about it. And I think it's quite right to kind of, scrutinize them and try and hold them to account. BP also previously invested in these kind of portable electric car chargers in the US with a $5 million investment in FreeWire technology, so much smaller than the 130 million pounds that they've just bought Chargemaster for. And companies like Shell have been, acquired New Motion, a charging network in Europe. So, there's a lot of this going on. Let's keep watching it, keep them, held to account as much as we can, keep watching what they do in terms of pricing, see where it goes, see if the availability does increase, and hope that something good comes from this, and keep the spotlight on BP Chargemaster, and let's see if they do, let's see if they do improve things. So, as I say, just a sort of opinion piece here. You may agree or disagree. Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you're interested to see more videos, and bye for now.